In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
This week on Soundbites, we put Eric Barnes to the test. Welcome back, everybody. We missed last week due to yet another Memphis weather apocalypse, one that's lingered for us a bit. Without getting into the wet and dirty details, it's why we're out of studio this week, and also why regular podcast fixture Holly Whitfield is not with us. But as we record, we are one day removed from National Southern Food Day, and we're going to find out just how Southern Eric Barnes is, at least from a food standpoint. But first, you can find all of our food stories and this show in podcast form at dailymemphian.com, where you can also sign up for our This Week in Food email. You can also catch Soundbites Thursdays at 11 a.m. left of the dial at 91.7 WYXR, your Crosstown radio, or subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. And if you're a Facebook user, we encourage you to join our Table Talk group there as well. What's up, Eric?
Hi, ma'am. We are on the 10th floor of the Concourse Central Atrium.
Yeah, I'm up. I've never been this rarefied, I don't think. I spend like about a quarter of my week, I think, in this building.
Exactly. Right.
Which is probably not much less than you do, even though you live here.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a scene where we're sort of above the hoi polloi. We can hear like the rumbling of the peasants below us, but we're sort of, you know, sitting over them. Yeah.
You mentioned the weather. There's no real secret. Our office was flooded during last Thursday, a week ago, and that included the podcast studio and really everything. So we're going to be doing this remotely. I'm doing sidebar up here as well after this, and it's awesome. It's so great.
So great. So what we're going to do this week, like I said, we're one day removed from National Southern Food Day. So in honor of that, we were going to put Holly to the test. Holly is a native Southerner like me. She's from Southern Mississippi. I'm from Eastern Arkansas. I feel like she could have been a contender.
Right.
I think I would have beat her in terms of most Southern from a food standpoint, but I think it would have been a fight.
Yeah.
I think I got you beat.
I think you got me beat.
But we're going to see how Southern you are or have become. You are not a native Southerner. I think this has been established.
Yes.
It's not on this pod than in other places, but we'll revisit here. Eric Barnes, how did you get to Memphis?
Well, I've been here 27 years, so coming up on half my life, and it's definitely my adopted home. Raised my kids here, all of that. I went from Tacoma, Washington, which is south of Seattle, as far away from Tacoma, Washington as I could to go to college. I ended up in Connecticut, then moved to New York, worked in Connecticut, then lived and worked in New York for 5 years. And the kid's mom, my ex-wife and still friend, was from Memphis. And I visited a few times and wasn't really sure about it the first couple of times. It was kind of weird and interesting. And then really fell in love with it while we lived in New York. And once we wanted to get out of New York, it was the obvious choice to come here. And I'm glad we did.
So 27 years is a long time. That's more time than many native Memphians have been in Memphis.
Yeah.
Because they are too young
to
have been here 27 years.
That hurt. That hurt a lot. But anyway,
right. It's true. Had you spent much time in the South before you moved here?
No, I'd been to Houston once, which is its own Southern Texas
It's a thing unto itself.
Then I was
Houston's like a thing unto itself within a thing unto itself, which is Texas, right?
Yeah, and I was probably 19, and I met a friend there from college who was from Houston. Then we did a road trip over to New Orleans. Misbehaved, we'll just put it that way, for 3 days. So that was really Southern, although it was touristy Southern. I didn't know that. And then, I really then was up in Connecticut, New York, and until Blair and I met and I visited here with her, I'd never really been in the South.
So what, if anything, what was, from your memory, was your biggest, from a food standpoint, instead of cultural adjustment, we'll call it a culinary adjustment.
Yeah.
What was your biggest, what did you sort of struggle to, most surprising to you, or something you struggled to sort of, get into?
I think my first experiences here was probably more formal Southern food.
Right.
Kind of like traditional, like iced tea on the table. That was definitely my first exposure. It was not ribs or pork sandwiches or fried chicken so much. It was more of kind of a formal, and part of the culinary thing was I was at a number of places where it was just really formal, like tablecloths, silver goblets, that kind of thing. That was my first introduction to Memphis, was very formal Memphis, which was at once super interesting, but not something I wanted to be a part of. And it wasn't until I came back a few times and spent more time in other places that I ate ribs and ate fried chicken and ate, corn sandwiches and kind of got into good grungy food that way. So that was the striking thing. It was the formality of the initial visits was just like breathtaking. And then once I had moved here, then I like a lot of it. I don't like all of it. I think we're going to go through specific foods, you know, but certainly really at the time, the kind of traditional stuff of the ribs and the pork sandwiches and the getting into kind of actually liking grits, which sort of, freaked me out, things like that. Fried chicken, that kind of stuff, so yeah.
It's funny you mentioned grits. So I'm going to take you through this list that went viral a few years ago. And Jennifer Biggs and I, our late friend Jennifer Biggs, did a pod where we went through this to test each other. And I can't remember who ended up being quote unquote more Southern based on this, but it was a close race, whatever it was. This is not a list we came up with. This is a sort of list that went viral a few years ago. Some of the choices are odd in terms of what's there and what's not.
They are odd.
You mentioned
I've
grits.
seen the questions.
Grits is not on the list.
Yeah.
Shrimp and grits. Natalie makes a good point. Natalie, who of course is not on the mic as usual, makes a good point. Shrimp and grits.
Yeah, now she finally has an excuse because we don't have enough mics
That's right,
at the
we do not
moment
have enough mics.
to put her on, but we're getting more mics in this interim
but
flood period.
fried okra is not on this list.
Yeah.
When I think if I'm trying to introduce or explain Southern foods to non-Southerners, something I've done in my life, something I will probably do more in the future, like fried okra would be one of my cardinal things.
Right.
Like this is something that you don't really eat in other places the way we eat it here,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
There are some things that are like, at this point, fried chicken is Southern, but fried chicken is also just American. Like fried chicken is like everything, right? No one's shocked by fried chicken. No one's surprised. But like grits is not everything. Fried okra is not. There's some other,
fried
things.
green tomatoes. I mean,
Well, that is on this list.
Yeah, it is on the list, but you don't get it many other places.
All right, so we're going to go through this list. This list came from a site, I don't even know, honestly, apologies to them if it still exists. It was a site called It's a Southern Thing, which was an offshoot of AL.com in Alabama. A site I was mostly familiar with because our mutual friend and former mutual colleague, still kind of mutual colleague, Jared Boyd, he worked for this company. It was a job he had before he came to Memphis to work for us.
That's right.
So he was part of this AL.com operation. But they came up with this list. It is 39 what they think of as quintessentially Southern food items. We're going to put you to the test, see how many you've had. So I went through this and I divided it into two lists because there's one side of the list, and maybe you'll surprise me, but there's 14 things I'm just going to assume that you have had.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Now, because I get super competitive about these things. If I've had a bite,
that counts. That counts.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly, and you tell me if there's something on here you have not had.
Okay.
Peach cobbler.
Yes.
Chicken and dumplings.
Yes, a bite or two here and there.
I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
We'll take these sort of 5 at a time quick.
Yeah.
So peach cobbler, chicken and dumplings, cornbread, gumbo, chicken fried steak.
Yes.
Those are all guesses.
Yes.
I don't know if you have any particular feelings about these items within the context of Memphis. I used to love the cobbler, and this may have been before your time, I'm not sure. A Bunton restaurant, which went through different locations, but when it was on Southern by the railroad track when I was in high school, that cobbler, my wife will tell you that's one of the reasons she agreed to move to Memphis, is because of the cobbler at Bunton.
I never went to Bunton. I was here when I moved here, but I don't remember ever going there.
And I'm sure there's good cobbler to be had in Memphis now, but if there is, I don't know where it is, and not like Bunton.
I probably would have had it at someone's house.
Right.
I
love a good chicken fried steak with the gravy. My wife, who is from Minnesota, she is also, become, a part Southerner. She's adopted the Southern life as you have. She makes a really good skillet cornbread. Shout out to her. Yeah. So we're 5 for 5 on those. 5 more, maybe one of these I shouldn't have had on the list. I was thinking of Holly when I started making the list. So I don't know about you on one of these, but you've had hush puppies.
Oh yeah.
You've had shrimp and grits.
Oh yeah.
You've had fried green tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
You've had greens. On the list, it's turnip greens, collard greens,
I thought that was
whatever.
aren't they? Because they can be different.
I think
things,
collard
right?
greens is more common.
Yeah. But I think I've had turnip greens.
Okay.
And if they're done right, I like them. Like the greens. And I like them because they got lots of bacon on them, and the bacon grease. I like the
preparation is key. I think the quality range is wide when you're talking about stewed greens.
Yes.
I agree completely. Chess pie. Have you ever had chess pie?
That was one where I think I've had a bite. I'm sure I've had a bite.
That was the one
I'm not
where
a big pie person generally, so
Right.
I don't remember having a big judgment on it because I just don't eat
So
pie.
we have a recipe on the site, which I think we published in the last month, for the chess pie at Cecil's back in the day.
Yes.
Which was very popular. The old grocery chain Cecil's. They had their own internal bakery for their restaurants, or for their grocery stores, which is very popular. And the chess pie was, if not the most popular, one of the most popular things they served. I used to buy the chess pie from Cecil's back in the day.
Okay.
So if you've never had a chess pie, just make your own chess pie and go to dailymemphian.com and find the recipe.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to give you credit on chess pie.
Yeah.
So the other four I have I'm sure Eric has had this list: red beans and rice,
yes,
jambalaya,
yes,
deviled eggs, po' boys.
Po' boys, yes. Deviled eggs. I find deviled eggs.
You may know for a fact that you will not hate. You will not like them.
I don't like them. I don't like hard-boiled eggs.
I don't like them
I don't like I like eggs almost every other way, but there's something about that boiled
deviled
egg
eggs
thing.
is like the most common, ubiquitous, like Southern food that I can't stand.
Yeah.
People always have it. They act like it's a special treat. We have deviled eggs. I'm like, good for you.
Good for you.
I'm none on my plate.
And I feel like my kids love deviled eggs.
Yeah. Many people in our lives like deviled eggs. Eric and I are not among them.
I'm raising a flag on that. We're going to come back to that one. Okay. But I have smelled, I have this weird thing where I smell foods a lot and smell drinks a lot. I've definitely smelled it and been around and been exposed to deviled eggs, but I so don't like them that I'm not sure I had to have taken a bite. Like probably I was at some house with somebody where I was like, oh, I'll eat that, and got my way through it.
Right. We're giving you credit, though.
So I'm 14. I'm 14.
That's the easy 14. We take those 14, we set them aside. Now we get to either the more exotic stuff or the stuff where I'm like, I don't know.
I love how you've done this because y'all sent me the list beforehand, and this is, you've ordered the list in a really interesting way. This is good.
So we'll set that aside. That's the easy stuff. That's the we're on first base now.
Yeah. Yep.
In terms of our Southern foods. Frog, on the rest of this, I'm about 50-50 on the rest myself.
Okay.
Frog legs. We were eating frog legs.
That's a maybe. I definitely been somewhere where they had them.
I'm going to be a harder grader on the rest of these.
I can't. I think I have. I think I tried them somewhere. Like tried one.
All right.
Tasted like chicken. The usual thing.
It's a similar. So my grandparents' restaurant. This has been mentioned, I know, multiple times in the past on the pod, but just in case, quick rehash. My grandparents owned a restaurant. My mother's mother and her husband, my step grandfather. I used to call him my grandfather. Whatever. They had a restaurant when I was growing up, Don's Catfish Kitchen in DeWitt, Arkansas, and it was a big Southern catfish, hush puppies buffet situation. But they had frog legs on the buffet. Yeah. Fried frog legs.
So you would eat them regularly?
I didn't really like them, but I had them on multiple occasions because everyone would say, oh, they're just like chicken. I would be like, yeah, they have fried chicken on the buffet too.
Yeah, and it's really good.
And so I don't need to eat
buffet
the frog
fried
leg.
chicken is its own thing in the South. It's pretty amazing.
So frog legs seem to be like they're even less common than they used to be. You would find them in sort of Southern fried food places like my grandparents' place. I think less so now.
I never see them now.
Maybe there's an industrial frog leg problem. Maybe where they're hard to come by.
Weird thing going on with frogs.
All right, so we're giving you credit for that. I'm reluctantly giving you credit for that. I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah.
This one I know you haven't had because I had to look it up even to be sure what it was. Burgoo.
Yeah, what was that?
So burgoo is from Kentucky, which I guess we're calling the South. And it's similar.
Under protest.
Right. It's similar to a mulligan.
Is Florida the South? Not really.
It's similar to a mulligan stew. It's basically like a beef stew, but it's like multiple meats. So my sense of that is you're just throwing together stuff from your farm. We got some chicken and we got a pig and we're throwing them all in a pot with some vegetables. It's like
the stuff in Oh Brother, Where Art
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Where they're eating, they don't quite know what it is, and it's some combination of horse and squirrel or something.
So it's a multiple meat stew.
Yeah. I've had some bad stew and some questionable stew, but I've not had that one. We're
both a no on that.
Yeah.
Here's another one that I'm sure if you went to Kroger and looked really hard, you could find this, but you would have to really look hard. I don't even know how you pronounce it. Souse or souse?
What is it?
So souse is like pickled meat, basically. It's pickled, so sometimes described as pork, but sometimes it can be other things. It's like the trimmings, like the pig feet and the chicken, whatever, pickled in some kind of brine or a broth.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I've never had that.
This is not only something I've never had, it's something I will never have.
Life is too short.
All right. Oyster casserole.
No, definitely. What oyster casserole? There's oyster like stuffing, right? That people do sometimes at
I think that's similar, but
yeah,
that's
but
not the same.
if I ate a bite of oyster, I like raw oysters.
Right.
I like certain kinds of cooked oysters. Oysters in a casserole to me is just a horrifying surprise thing. I don't want that. So.
I don't like casseroles.
And I don't like casseroles.
You're right to be casserole skeptical, I would say. I am casserole
so
skeptical.
I'm gonna go no on that one.
I'm going to know on that too. It sort of brings up the point that we talk about the South as like one thing, but the South is like a really diverse, complicated region.
Right.
So oysters more common in some parts of the South, coastal South, than elsewhere. All right. Congealed salad.
What is that?
Now, is this a Southern thing or is this just a 1950s
like it's
processed foods? Like
Jell-O
we haven't learned
with-
how to cook yet thing, right?
it's like Jell-O.
Like
with
Jell-O
stuff.
salads with other stuff in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I've had it in the South, but that was a Tacoma thing.
You could have had that anywhere.
I could have had that anywhere.
I agree. I've had it too, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay. I'm going to guess no on this one for you. This is a no for me, actually. I've had a lot of like soul food kind of stuff, many of which are not on this list, by the way. Like they don't have neck bones on here or a oxtail or lots of like, ham hocks. None of that is on this list for some reason. I'm sure a person who looks somewhat like us came up with this list, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
But pickled pig feet is on the list. You ever had a pickled pig feet?
No.
Grab it out of a jar. Natalie has had pickled pig feet?
I didn't like it, but yeah.
Natalie's had it, does not like it.
She
I
grew
am
up
not.
on a farm in the country.
I don't think of that as a farm in the country thing. I think of that as a jar on the counter at like a real like hardcore soul food place kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or at like a, convenience store and like, yeah.
Gas station type.
All right. This is one that I struggled with which list to put it on. I think I got it on the right list here, but this is a definite yes for me. But have you ever had red eye gravy?
What is that?
So
I keep
red-eye-
saying this. I'm so
Red eye
embarrassed. but I mean-
gravy, typically you have it with country ham. Country ham and red eye gravy is a pairing. And it's a kind of pan gravy. It's basically, you fry up your country ham and then the drippings, you add coffee to it.
Oh.
There's some disagreement about this, but no, you add coffee to it. It's a coffee-based gravy, and then you serve it. Sort of a very thin, savory gravy.
Unless someone served it to me at their house and I didn't know that it was
So
red
I'm
eye.
sure,
So I'm going
like
no on that
for instance, I don't think there's any coffee involved, but somewhat of a play on this idea is the red eye pizza at Hog and Hominy.
Oh.
But the one place in Memphis, and I'm sure there are other places, but the one that I've written about this in the Daily Memphian, by the way, as like a favorite thing or a $10 deal, probably not a $10 deal, but I wrote about it. Barksdale Restaurant in Midtown, Cooper, country ham and red eye gravy, man. That's the order to make at Barksdale Restaurant.
Okay. That's good to know.
All right, tomato sandwich. You even know what I'm talking about when I say tomato
Well,
sandwich?
I said yes to this, but maybe that's a more particular thing than I'm realizing.
It's not that much more particular. It's like
It's bread with tomatoes.
but it's a particular Southern thing. Mayo is key here.
Mayo.
So it's white bread.
White bread.
It's fresh, preferably like fresh from the garden or farmer's market tomatoes. And it's mayo and then maybe some salt and pepper. And like, that's it.
I've had that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably at like a reception party wedding kind of thing where they got little ones on. See,
This is different from the little cucumber. Should we give him credit for this or no?
yes. No. I'm just telling you, there was a time in my life where I went to a lot of really formal Southern things.
This
and
is
there's
not a formal
crazy-
Southern thing. This is grandma's kitchen table.
Okay, but if
Right.
I'm saying it's these little triangles.
No. We're
But
not
it's
giving.
the
We're not,
same
we're
ingredients.
not. No, we're not giving him credit for
Okay.
this.
Well,
I
I've
agree.
not had the
White bread with the crust.
I've not
White
had the
bread with
low
the crust.
crust
This
tomato
is-
sandwich. Sorry.
I need some bacon involved myself. Bacon and lettuce, like a
yeah.
BLT. My wife,
That's also then called the
my
BLT.
wife, born and raised in Minnesota, she loves the Southern tomato sandwich so much. She got a T-shirt from the Population Bitter Southerner that just says tomato plus mayo, like on the T-shirt.
Yeah.
She reps hard for the tomato sandwich.
Okay.
We're not
All right.
giving you credit.
All right. I'll stand by that.
All right, Hoppin' John.
Yeah. I have had that.
I don't like Hoppin' John. I don't need
I've
Hoppin'
had
John.
it at
But yes.
Hog and Hominy. I know there's a lot of Southern wedding food that I've had. The Hog and Hominy used to have it.
Yeah, variations
I mean,
on.
that's the first time I had it.
It's like a peas and rice kind of thing.
And I thought I would hate it, but I tried it. It was actually really good.
Because of the Black Eyed Pea connection. You'll see it a lot on like New Year's Day in the South.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love black-eyed peas. I'm not a big Hop and John guy, but I've definitely
Yeah.
had it. Here's one that I had to look up because I wasn't sure about. Liver mush.
Oh, God. I hope I've never had it.
So liver mush is like a cold cut kind of thing, apparently, but it's like a processed pig liver, like turned into a cold cut.
Let's move on. That's disgusting. But
Yeah.
that's kind of like, it's a pate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically.
It's a down-home pate.
It's a down-home pate.
And I'm a no on that one, too.
Yeah.
Here's one that I think could either go high or low, but it's not dissimilar from burgoo. But have you ever had rabbit stew?
No, I don't think so. I think I've had rabbit.
I feel
a
like
bite
rabbit
at some
stew is something you could have in a shack in the hills of Kentucky or in the finest restaurant in some small town in France. You
Yes.
know?
Oh, totally.
You know,
in
it
France.
can sort of go
100%
either way
in
with
France.
that,
yes.
right?
Yeah. And yes. And even in New England has, the rabbit was a not uncommon thing in sort of foofy restaurants in New England.
All right, we'll finish up our stews. Have you ever had Brunswick stew?
What is it again?
So Brunswick stew is not that different from burgoo either, but it's more of a tomato-based stew, but it's typically like small game and vegetables. It's like, not that different from like a rabbit stew.
I
Yeah,
probably
it's
have
more
had
of a
a
Kentucky
bite
kind of
somewhere,
thing.
but don't give me any on it.
I'm going to give myself credit, and I shouldn't, but I'm giving myself credit because if you go to Germantown, what's the barbecue place in Germantown? Germantown Commissary. On the menu, they have a Brunswick stew, but it isn't a barbecue Brunswick stew. They use their barbecue pulled pork in this kind of preparation.
If I had it, it was more like something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I did.
All right, we got about a dozen to get through. We'll speed it up a little bit so we don't run out of time. Corn pudding.
No.
I'm not a fan. My mother makes corn pudding. Hopefully my mother will not listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
She doesn't. She probably doesn't know it exists. She doesn't live in Memphis. My mother makes corn pudding. That's one of her go-tos. She doesn't cook a lot. But she doesn't make like, I'm sure, Apex corn pudding. Like it's very like canned corn kind of stuff,
Yeah, no.
But it would be like sort of a casserole-y thing that's like a bready corn baked dish.
I'd love a bowl of that with some liver mush.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Corn pudding is good?
I think I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's good if the ingredients are good, right?
Natalie
You're not
is
just
saying
straight out of a can.
It's
kind
corn
of stuff.
casserole. Not okay.
I don't know why this is on the list. To me, this is not a thing you eat by. It can be a thing you eat by itself. I think it more is the flavoring, but fatback, salt pork. If you've eaten Southern food, you've eaten fatback, even if you never had it by itself.
Okay.
I'm giving you credit, even if you're not giving yourself credit on that one.
This balances the tomato sandwich.
Yeah. It's basically salt pork, like salty pork.
Okay.
You throw in a pot of beans or greens.
Oh,
or that kind of thing.
definitely.
Although you could fry it up and eat it by itself, but whatever. Speaking of frying up and eat it by yourself, fried bologna.
Definitely, yes. Because
Yeah.
I've had it at Payne's.
Yeah.
You know, fried bologna
Fried
sandwich,
bologna a little bit
and
different from the barbecue bologna, but I'm giving you credit anyway.
I think the way Payne's does it is it's just on that.
They crisp it up.
I mean, and same with up on near St. Jude, up on North Parkway.
Cozy Corner.
Cozy Corner.
Yeah.
Yes, Cozy Corner. We had it there too.
All right. Here's something that I have 100% had. I know that you have not had. That is fried squirrel.
Definitely not.
So fried squirrel, not on the buffet line at my grandparents' restaurant, but my other grandparents from the same county in Arkansas, they were more country people. My mother's side more town. It's a thin distinction, but it's a real one in these small places. So there's like Methodist versus Baptist. There's town versus country. My mother's side is more town, Methodist, middle class. My dad's side is pure country, Southern Baptist, out in the woods. And my grandfather used to go hunt squirrel and then take them home and fry them up, right? And so a couple times when I was visiting during the summer, I eat fried squirrel. And so I had fried squirrel. I'm not going to seek it out ever, but whatever, it was fine.
If you're a fan of the show Alone, there's a lot of cooked squirrel on that. Depending on where they are, it's crazy ass show. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is a different region of the South than us. You don't find it in Memphis that much, but pretty common along the road in more of the Southeast. Boiled peanuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
You like boiled peanuts?
No, I mean, I've had them. Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
I don't remember liking or disliking them because I'm not a huge peanut fan, but I had them where I was.
All right, we had 8 things left. So I'll pick up the pace a little bit more. Chitlins. Have you ever eaten chitlins? I have never eaten chitlins, and I've had many, many opportunities to eat chitlins.
I think I've
and
had
have
opportunities and I
declined
passed.
every opportunity.
I think I declined. Yes.
Yeah. Chitlins are pig
They've been
intestine.
in front of me. Yeah, they've been in front of me, and
Sometime in my life,
I did have them.
Oh, you did?
I had them in the last.
This is the one thing you're going to have that I'm
like
not.
a bite. Again, we're back to the bite rule.
It's kind of shameful,
I was
frankly, that I've
somewhere,
never eaten chitlins.
And I think it was with Leslie. We were somewhere. I will fact check that. So
I really should. Natalie, have you eaten chitlins? Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down. They
Grew
can't
up on
hear
a
you.
farm.
She got to give me some sign
I
language.
have eaten chitlins.
She's eaten. You like chitlins?
No.
Oh no, you're yes, you've had it. No, you're not going to seek it out again. Pear salad. You know what even this means in the context of the South?
Maybe not.
It's like
I've had pears in a salad.
yes. We're not talking about goat cheese and walnuts. That sounds delicious. We're talking about canned pear with like mayonnaise and cheddar cheese.
Oh, I've not had that.
Yeah,
I assumed it was even just like lettuce and pear with a.
I don't know why this is on the list and fried okra is not. But if you had butter beans,
Yeah.
aka lima beans, if they're fresh, I'm a big fan. If they're frozen or out of a can, keep them away from me. Fried gizzards. Ever had fried gizzards? I don't think I've had a fried gizzard.
You know, I had fried gizzards at a very traditional Chinese restaurant in downtown
Oh, well, that
Boston.
doesn't count.
But it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And it was duck. What was that? Fried gizzards of what animal?
Chicken, right?
It would be
Is that
chicken.
what we're talking
yeah.
about?
We
Yeah.
had duck ones, and it was really.
Okay, we're not
and it was a giant platter. I'm not saying a plate. I'm saying a platter of duck gizzards.
All right, we're not counting that. We got 4 things left.
did
We
not.
only got a few minutes. So, have you ever had similar to gizzards? You ever had chicken liver?
And I would have avoided it.
Yeah, I have, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold on that. You've had gator? Yes? No?
No.
I've only had gator at like at concessions, like Louisiana style concessions. I think I'm more pro gator than frog leg or squirrel for that
Interesting.
matter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, squirrel's at the bottom of that list.
You ever had poke salad?
Oh, I read that wrong. I don't know what's poke salad.
So,
I read it as a poke bowl. I was like, yeah, how's that southern?
So poke
That's
salad,
that's like an Asian Hawaiian
it's sort of
kind
spelled
of thing.
different ways, and they spell it P-O-K-E in this, but then they spell it salad like, what's that? Yeah, it's spelled different ways, different places. Sometimes you see P-O-K-E, sometimes you see P-O-L-K, and people have made it salad, S-A-L-A-D. It's S-A-L-L-E-T, poke salad. It's like a wild green.
Huh.
And so there's the song Poke Salad Annie that Tony Joe White is known for. Elvis recorded it. And it's about like, a poor Southern woman going out to gather just wild greens for dinner because that's all you had to eat kind of thing. I have never had poke salad.
I've never had poke salad.
All right, last one, which I have had. This is a very Arkansas thing. You ever had chocolate gravy? So chocolate gravy I associate with sort of the mountain area of Arkansas, northern Arkansas. And it's like a biscuits and gravy thing, but it's a chocolate-based gravy.
Oh, God.
It's basically hot chocolate sauce.
Yeah,
hot
it's hot chocolate
chocolate
sauce.
But I
Per
disagree.
Natalie.
I'll edit this out. That is not an Arkansas thing.
So I have had it in northern Arkansas. I had it particularly on the way up to the Buffalo River. It may be in other places too, but within the context of Arkansas, that is where I associate it. And if you get the book Road Food, Jan and Michael Stern, which is about sort of, precursor to diners, drive-ins, and dives, frankly, the Road Food book, the one place where they talk about chocolate gravy is sort of a place in northern Arkansas. All right, let's count up, Eric.
What did I score? I did better than I actually.
1, 2. We gave you we got the initial 14, and then we're like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're at 22. I think that's solid. 22 out of 39. I think that's pretty good.
Because when I did
I'm at 30. I'm 30 even.
30. What is Natalie? Did Natalie do it ever?
We don't know.
According to this, I'm showing up Southern.
You're over. What was your score?
I was ignoring their cutesy southernisms.
Okay.
So what was your number?
That was
Natalie?
good.
I didn't do my number, but I know it's high.
Okay.
Yeah, she said.
Natalie said she
it's
didn't do
high.
her number,
Yeah.
but she knows it's high.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
actually only counted 17 or something when I did it, but I didn't know what a lot of things were.
Yeah.
So that once you explained them, I was like, oh, well, I did do something.
Well, hey, 22 is good. There is more
Yeah.
work to do. There's more for you to accomplish.
Yes. The day is
You may have other things in your bucket list, but I think you could make room for
Yeah.
some liver mush and some fried squirrel on your list of things
almost
to do.
nothing on there. I got to be honest. There might be a couple things on there.
You're not looking to get a higher number. You feel
looking.
good about where you're at.
I'm feeling really good. But then I eat things like grits isn't on there. I just had pimento cheese on my BLT.
Pimento cheese, another thing they didn't leave.
I know,
It's a
like-
very southern thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I feel good about my number too. I'm not in a rush to hit the pickled pig's feet myself.
Yeah, no.
All right. Well, this
Please
has been
no.
Sound Bites. We have found out how southern Eric Barnes has become, and you know what? Pretty southern.
Pretty southern.
And so we will talk to you again next week.